Today we have a reading comp passage full of inference questions. Now I'm going to show you the best and easiest way to handle these questions, so when we're done, you're not only going to be great at inference questions, you're also going to be a lot better at reading comp in general. I also want to give you my top 5 tips for raising your GRE score 5 points fast. These are super specific, super actionable, and they're super free. You can download yours right there in the description. Okay, let's tackle those inference questions. Whenever you're reading any reading comp passage, your goal is to exit the reading with a very good understanding of the main points and a much less good understanding of the details. Now, this helps you a ton on inference questions because inference questions tend to be obsessed with the main points of the passage or the main points of the paragraph. Also, when you're doing inference questions, learn to read incredibly, and I mean stupidly literally. Also, look for specific evidence in the passage to support whichever answer choice you choose. I promise you the specific evidence always exists. Finally, their goal when they write these reading comps is to write them in incredibly confusing ways. It's very, very helpful to put things into your own words. Okay, let's jump into an example so you can see how this works. Go ahead and pause the video. I want you to read this passage and take no more than 60 seconds. I want you to concentrate on pulling out only the main points. Skip over the jargon and examples and details. Pull back. Don't try and read and understand everything. In general, you're looking for single declarative sentences that you can actually understand, that don't pull you down into the technical weeds of the subject. Okay, go ahead, and when we come back, I'll show you how I read it. All right, the stuff in yellow is really the only stuff I actually read. Everything else I just skimmed really quickly. So I understood the first sentence, so I read it. Next, I always pick out any terms they throw at me. So I was sure to read the definition and understand what labor theory of value meant. In the next paragraph, well, I understood the first sentence, but the middle of that paragraph was all just description and examples, so I just really quickly skimmed it. Now, I did pick out the last sentence, which was a conclusion-y type of sentence. The labor theory of value systematically disregards the productive contribution of capital goods. In fact, I think that's the author's point of view, and it is sentences just like that that I want you to kind of get attuned to and make sure you stop and pick out and read. And with that, we've read enough, more than enough, in fact, to do very well on the passage. Generally speaking, the less you read, the better off you are. So just with what we read in yellow, we can answer these 4 questions really easily. What is this about? Well, it's about the labor theory of value. What's the author's point of view? He disagrees with it. He thinks it disregards the contribution of capital goods. Are there other points of view? Well, I guess there's John Locke and the folks who came up with the labor theory of value. And what's the tone? It's definitely argumentative. Okay, what is the main point of paragraph 1? Well, that defines the labor theory of value. What about paragraph 2? Well, that's the author's point of view, so that disagrees with the labor theory of value. Also, there's something about the contributions and compensations of a whole bunch of people. That's all we need to get all the questions right. The author implies which of the following regarding the formulators of the labor theory of value. Okay, this is another inference question. Remember, for any answer, we have to have actual evidence that we can point to in the paragraph. So we need to know something about the folks that formulated the labor theory of value. A says they came from a working class background. Is there anything in the passage that says that the folks who formulated the labor theory of value came from a working class background? There is not. They want you to assume that, but they never ever say that. A is out. B, their views were too radical to have popular appeal. Do we have any information in the passage of how popular this labor theory of value was? No, we're given no information at all. B is wrong. C, at least one of them was a close contemporary of Locke. Really? Who was it? What was their name? Do we have any indication that one of them was a close contemporary of Locke? We do not. D, they were familiar with Locke's views on the relationship between labor and the value of products. Do we have any information that the folks that formulated the labor theory of value were familiar with Locke's views on labor and the value of products? We kind of do, actually, because it says Locke's intellectual heirs are the folks who formulated the labor theory of value, and so Locke kind of created the intellectual underpinnings of the theory. So D is probably right. We'll keep it around for sure. Let's look at E. Maybe E is even better. They underestimated the importance of consumer goods in a modern economy. Is there any evidence at all to say how much they overestimated or underestimated the importance of consumer goods in a modern economy? No, there's not. The correct answer is D. Which of the following statements, if true, would most effectively counter the author's criticism of Locke at the end of the passage? Okay, so first of all, this is an inference question, so we're going to end up putting stuff into our own words for sure. Second, we're going to take a look at exactly what the author's criticism was, and I've highlighted it in yellow. Let's read it, and then let's put it into our own words. The labor theory of value systematically disregards the productive contribution of capital goods, a failing for which Locke must bear part of the blame. Okay, so we are looking for a statement that says, you know what, Locke should not bear part of the blame for disregarding the productive contribution of capital goods. Okay, why shouldn't Locke bear part of the blame? A says, well, Locke was unfamiliar with the labor theory of value as it was formulated by his intellectual heirs. Okay, so he can't be responsible for the labor theory of value disregarding the productive contribution because he didn't come up with the labor theory of value. Maybe. B, in Locke's day, there was no possibility of ordinary workers becoming shareholders or pension beneficiaries. That doesn't have anything to do with anything. B is out. C, during Locke's lifetime, capital goods did not make a significant productive contribution to the economy. Aha, so Locke shouldn't be held responsible for this because in his day, it just didn't happen. Capital goods never were productive contributions. Oh, maybe. D, the precise statistical calculation of the productive contributions of labor and capital goods is not possible without computers. That doesn't have anything to do with anything. E, the terms capital goods and consumer goods were coined by modern economists and did not appear in Locke's writing. Again, that has nothing to do with anything. So we're down to A and C. Which one do we like better? A says Locke wasn't familiar with the labor theory of value, and B says in Locke's lifetime, capital goods just didn't contribute anything. I actually don't think A is right because they're not saying that Locke came up with the labor theory of value. What they're saying is Locke had all of the underpinnings, kind of the argument which kind of the labor theory of value sprung from. So just because he wasn't familiar with the labor theory of value doesn't mean that he's not responsible in some way for what the labor theory ultimately says. C is much more persuasive. C says, look, Locke couldn't have possibly taken into account how capital goods figure in because when Locke was alive, capital goods didn't figure in at all. So C is our best answer choice. Which of the following arguments would a proponent of the labor theory of value, as it's presented in the first paragraph, be most likely to use in response to lines 23 through 25? Okay, first of all, this is an inference question, so we're definitely going to be putting things into our own words. Second, let's look at lines 23 through 25, which I've highlighted. The labor theory of value systematically disregards the productive contribution of capital goods, a failing for which Locke must bear part of the blame. Okay, so we need an answer choice that says that we should disregard the productive contribution of capital goods. We need a reason why we should ignore the contribution of capital goods. All right, well, let's see if we get it. What does A say? A says the productive contribution of workers and capital goods can't be compared because the productive lifespan of capital goods is longer than that of workers. That's not a reason why we should just ignore and disregard productive contribution of capital goods, and that's what we're looking for, so A is out. B says the author's analysis of the distribution of income is misleading because only a small percentage of workers are also shareholders. That is also not a reason why we should disregard the productive contribution of capital goods. We need a reason why we can ignore it. B doesn't give us that. C says capital goods are valuable only insofar as they contribute directly to the production of consumer goods. Okay, well, C is basically saying, look, if you're talking about things that aren't consumer goods, then we should ignore capital goods. But if we're talking about consumer goods, capital goods really are valuable, so we should actually not disregard it. C does not give us a reason why we should disregard it. D says the productive contribution of capital goods must be discounted because capital goods require maintenance. Maybe. That's kind of hinting at why we should ignore it, but it's not saying we should ignore it entirely, just discount it, but we'll keep D around. What does E say? E says the productive contribution of capital goods must be attributed to labor because capital goods are themselves products of labor. Okay, between D and E, I like E a lot more. First of all, D just wants to discount capital goods. E says we shouldn't count capital goods at all. Capital goods should fall in the labor bucket. And not only that, E's argument lines up very, very closely to what the argument is of people that subscribe to the labor theory of value, that 100% of the value of any product is generated by labor. So that's right on top of that definition. D is not right. E is correct. According to the author, which of the following is true of the distribution of the income derived from the total output of consumer goods in a modern economy? Okay, anytime you see according to the author, we're actually not positive if it's going to be a detailed statement or if it's going to be an inference statement, but the truth is at the beginning of the analysis it doesn't matter, because what we need to do is we need to find the part of the passage where they talk about like this distribution of income. And we know for sure, because we wrote it down, that that's in paragraph 2. So I've blown up paragraph 2 here, and let's take a look at what they say. And here we go. We've got in modern economies about 1/3 of the total output of consumer goods is attributable to the use of capital goods. Approximately 2/3 of the income derived from this total output is paid out to workers as wages and salaries, and the remaining third serving as compensation to the owners of capital goods. Moreover, part of this remaining third is received by workers who are shareholders, pension beneficiaries, and the like. It's always, always, always good when you get something that's this chunky and confusing to put it into your own words. So it looks like 1/3 of the consumer goods is capital goods. That means 2/3 must be labor. And then the next sentence says about 2/3 of the income derived from this is paid out to workers as wages and salaries. Okay, so 2/3 is labor. Labor gets paid 2/3. The remaining third serves as compensations to the owners of capital goods. That makes sense too. 1/3 of the total output is capital, and the owners get 1/3 of the compensation. So far, we're even Steven. Moreover, part of this remaining third, okay, so part of the owner's third is received by workers who are shareholders, pension beneficiaries, and the like. So the owners aren't quite getting a full 1/3, and the workers are getting a little bit more than 2/3. Okay, let's see if we get an answer choice that says that. So A says workers receive a share of this income that is significantly smaller than the value of their labor. No, they got a little more actually. So A's out. B, owners of capital goods receive a share of this income that is significantly greater than the contribution. No, they get a little bit less. C, owners of capital goods receive a share of this income that is no greater than the proportion of the total output attributed to the use of capital goods. Well, that is true. They don't get any more than that 1/3. We'll keep C in the maybe. D, owners of capital goods are not fully compensated for their investment because they pay out most of their share of this income to workers as wages and benefits. Not sure about that. I don't love the word most, but generally it's going in the right direction. So we'll keep D around as well. And E says workers receive a share of this income that is greater than the value of their labor, okay, because the labor theory of value overestimates their contribution to total output. No. What they get has nothing to do with the labor theory of value. E is out. So between C and D, which do we like more? C says owners of capital goods receive a share of this income that is no greater than the proportion of the total output attributed to the use of the capital goods. So they receive no more than 1/3. That's absolutely true. D says owners of capital goods are not fully compensated, that seems maybe right, for their investment because they pay out most of their share of this income to workers as wages and benefits. We don't know. we don't know what percentage of their share they pay out to workers as wages and benefits. So that most messes everything up. We don't have evidence for that. Our answer choice here is C. Notice how literally we interpreted the question. Notice how literally we interpreted the evidence. Whenever you're in a hard question, going super literal is going to help you. This question is a primary purpose question, and here's a pro tip. The answer to primary purpose questions will always be the answer choice that's closest to the answers that you wrote down when you answered those first 4 questions. What is it about? It's about the labor theory of value. Author's point of view, he disagrees with the theory because there's no contribution of capital goods. Other points of view, well, there's John Locke and his heirs. And what's the tone? Well, the tone is argumentative. Okay, we are going to go through each answer choice, and we're going to pick out the one that's closest to those blue statements. All right, A. Criticizing Locke's economic theories. No, the labor theory of value is not John Locke's economic theory. The passage is very clear about this. The folks who came up with the labor theory of value wasn't John Locke, it was John Locke's heirs. A is out. B, discounting the contribution of labor in a modern economy. Okay, looking at our blue statements there, do we see contribution of labor in a modern economy anywhere? No, I didn't even see any of those words. B is out. C, questioning the validity of the labor theory of value. Well, let's see, we're talking about the labor theory of value, and the author disagrees with it. Okay, maybe. C definitely stays in the maybe bucket. D, arguing for a more equitable distribution of business profits. Do we see equitable distribution or business profits or anything like it in those blue statements? Nope. D is out. What about E? Contending that employers are overcompensated for capital goods. Well, I see capital goods. Do we see anything about employers are overcompensated? No, nothing about that. So our answer choice is C, which is in fact the author's point of view. Okay, great job. The whole trick with inference questions is to read super literally and look for specific evidence that supports your answer choice. Also, don't forget about your free gift. Top 5 tips to raise your GRE score 5 points fast. It's yours for free. You can download it right in the description. Okay, great job. See you next time.